Nice balcony you got there,
Yeah.
Becky.
Risky. Hopefully it doesn't thunderstorm or something
Woo!
soon. Actually, it's pretty clear here. I'm in New Jersey right now, and it cleared up a little bit, oddly enough.
Yeah, that's what I noticed too. She said that's what I'm hoping too. Huh?
Yeah, you definitely don't want to get caught in a thunderstorm.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in the city earlier this morning, and it looked like it was going to. It's just looked very thunderstormy.
Yeah.
And same thing coming back into Jersey, it cleared up. So.
Yeah, for sure. It's good. I hope it stays that way.
We've had some really nice weather for the past week.
Yeah.
So if it rains, we can't complain.
You can't complain for sure. And I think this weekend's going to be pretty beautiful also. So definitely can't complain about that.
Yeah, beach weather for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so I think let's get started. We have
Cool.
Zach in the house.
Yeah.
Part 3, plyometrics for runners workshop. I have the chat box open, so as we're working along, if you have questions, feel free to type it in there. Feel free to raise your hand by going over your name. If you open up the participant box, you can raise your hand. If you don't see that capacity, you can physically raise your hand or type it in the box and say, hey, I want to ask a question, and I'll unmute you. So without further ado, let's get to it.
Cool. Sounds good. So I know Becky has heard this a million times. Lena, I'm not sure if you were here for the first two, so we'll give you a quick rundown on what plyometrics are and why they're useful for runners. Just spend a second on it. When we think of plyometrics, you want to think of them as speed strength movements. So movements that involve the production of force in a very quick time frame. And it's really characterized by muscles lengthening rapidly, followed by muscles shortening rapidly. So when you think of something like a jump squat or just a jump in general, that would be a plyometric movement. Why they're important for runners: running is really just one big plyometric movement over and over and over again. You're sort of bounding from one foot to the next, and you really want to train your body in such a way that it will prepare itself to handle the stresses of those plyometric movements over the course of a long run, whether that's a 5K or a full marathon. Obviously, there's a lot more ground contacts in a marathon, and that's when things become even more important to consider. Today, we're going to be focusing on some linear vertical movements. So that's basically just like a subset of certain plyometric movements. And I want you guys to think about them being in like the front to back plane and focusing on getting vertical height more than, horizontal distance while we're doing these. All right. So when you think of a jump straight up in the air, that would be like the quintessential linear vertical plyometric movement. This is extremely important for runners, mainly because from a biomechanical perspective, running at a constant sort of endurance or distance pace requires something called that we call absolute speed. Now, absolute speed is characterized by more vertical forces, believe it or not, than horizontal forces. So your body is actually moving up and down as it's traveling horizontally. And the reason for this is it minimizes the braking forces of your body so that you can stay at that nice, smooth tempo, throughout the course of your run. So if you imagine that you were sort of accelerating forward with every step, your body would have to slow itself down every time and then re-accelerate again, every step. It's not quite as efficient of a process as if we focus on the forces being a little bit more vertical and having a nice cyclic sort of circular leg action moving along the run. So again, it's very much a linear vertical movement. So when we set the foundation for plyometrics, that's where we want to start, and then you can sort of build into lateral movements, horizontal movements, multi-directional movements, and kind of combine the different variations that way. Yeah, that's sort of the little educational piece for today, the why behind we're going to focus on the linear vertical movements. If you have any questions as we're going through on really anything at all, like Tina said, you can raise your hand, you can type in the chat box, and we'll make sure to get those questions answered for you. I'll also try and leave a couple minutes at the end to go over any questions if there are any. All right. So yeah, we'll start with a dynamic warm-up again. It'll be similar to the dynamic warm-up that we've done with a few other sort of body weight movements added in. Then we'll move into our plyo prep kind of movements, and then go right into the linear vertical plyometric progression that we have for today. All right. So have everybody get up, and we'll start with just some basic forward leg swings. We'll do 15 leg swings on each side. Make sure you don't almost kick the wall like I just did. See, we have a couple more people here. I recognize one or two names. Good. Let's make sure you're switching sides here. Opening up the front of the hip, getting the hamstring to lengthen and contract in a way that mimics some of the work that we'll be doing here. Good. When you finish those up, we're going to go into lateral leg swings. Again, 15 on each side. Good. Make sure you switch. So as we go through today, you'll see, again, mostly front to back sort of movements, kind of in the vein of a jump. There'll be some hopping, some single leg variations as well. Excuse me. Next on the agenda for the warm up, we have some A skips. So you're gonna go into a nice hop and then get the leg driving up towards the ceiling. We'll do 15 A skips on each side. Good. Now when you're ready, you can switch. Good. And then from there, we're going to go into our C skips. So you're up into the A skip, out into the C. We'll go 10 C skips each side. Good. Make sure you get a switch in here. Good. All right. So now we're going to go into a couple of body weight movements just to get some of the muscles working. We're going to start with some glute bridges. So you're going to get down onto the floor. Heels about an arm's distance away. And you're just bringing the hips up towards the ceiling. We'll go for 15 reps. And then we'll move on to the next exercise. Make sure you're really driving the heels through the floor to help get the hamstrings going, which are an extremely important muscle group for not only running, but also plyometrics specifically. Good. Once you finish those up, we'll go into our lateral lunges. So stepping out to the side, reaching the hips back up to the starting position. We'll go 10 on each side. Good. Switch. Good. Let everybody shake it out for a minute here once you finish up. Take a sip of water if you need. So from here, we're going to move into some of the plyo prep work that we've done in the past, with one or two additions as well. So again, we're going to go over the base position and revisit the snap down progression that we've done. And then from there, we'll jump into the linear vertical progressions. When we get into the progressions, you'll see some different initiation types, I'll call them. These are kind of a continuum and a progression as well. So when we think of different initiation types, it'll be non-counter movement, counter movement, double contact, and then continuous. Those are like the four that you'll see today. And you'll get a sense of what those are when we actually, move into things here, okay? So again, they get more challenging across the continuum, but they're also a progression. So you want to start, at that first non-counter movement spot and then build from there. All right, so base position, just to go over it again real quick. Let me just adjust my screen here a little bit. Base position is going to be slight bend in the knees, hips back towards the wall behind you. Nice athletic stance with your feet slightly wider than the hips. Nice solid landing position. If I were to try and move in any direction, I can pretty easily. From the side, that's going to look something like so, right? So when we go into the snap down, we're going to start by snapping down into that base position. You're in triple extension here, on your tippy toes, knees straight, hips extended, down into the base position. Let's just do 5 of these. Take your time with them. Focus on really sticking the landing and owning the base position. If you don't get this down, it's going to make a lot of the more difficult plyometric movements, that much more complex for your body to handle. Good. All right, I think everyone's finished up there with the snap down to the base position. Now we're going to do a snap down into a split squat, So starting in triple extension, snapping down into the split squat. 5 reps on each side here as well. Guys, make sure you're sticking the landing here. Good, Mark. Nice. Good job, Becky. All right. From there, the third progression in the plyo prep sequence, we're going to go snap down onto a single leg. So I'll show you from the side here. Snapping down onto one leg. Again, that same base position, slight bend in the knee, hips reach back for the wall behind you. And really focus on sticking the landing, driving the arms down towards the floor to help absorb some of the force. 5 on each side. Good. Everybody's looking solid here. Nice. All right, as you guys finish up here, I'll walk you through the next part of plyo prep. This is new, all right? This is going to combine a long lever bridge with a plyometric motion. So this is a more isolated plyometric movement for the hamstring muscle group, which again, becomes very important as we get into some of these progressions here, all right? So you'll start in the bridge position. You're gonna go longer than an arm's length away from your heel. You're gonna come up into the bridge on one leg And basically you want to think about your legs switching positions. So you're driving one down into the floor as the other comes up. All right.
So Zach, are the hips lifted or on the ground?
The hips stay lifted the entire time. So you're trying to keep your hips nice and level through the entirety of the movement. And you want to just think about your legs switching positions in a quick movement. So your heel should really be making contact with the floor first. Good, good, nice, Mark. That looks good, Tina.
So it feels like, I don't know if others are feeling this way, but it feels like the toe wants to connect first. Is that bad? Should the heel be connecting first?
It's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you focus on trying to drive the heel through the floor first, that will just sort of reinforce the hamstring's role in this exercise. So the way that I like to do it, I actually lift my toes away from the floor when I start. So my heel is actually the only thing in contact with the ground at this point. And then I kind of switch right down onto the heel. And again, It's not a bad thing if your foot's flat. It just sort of biases the hamstring a little bit more if you can focus on driving the heel down.
Cool.
Nice. All right. So again, just getting the hamstring working in a very similar way to how it'll have to function with some of these progressions here. All right. Progressing on that, we're going to now get into some of these linear vertical progressions. I want you to start with a single leg RDL. So that looks like this. You're going to stand on one leg, reach down towards your foot, nice and slow. Then you're going to spring up into the single leg stance position and exchange legs, okay? Once you exchange, you'll go into a single leg RDL. On the opposite side, spring up into single leg stance and exchange. I'll demo a couple more times here. So down into the single leg RDL position, up nice and fast in the single leg stance, leg switch position in the exchange.
So single leg deadlifts, what are the benefits of them for running? I understand the momentum coming up and the plyometrics, but I would love to learn about the actual deadlift benefits for running.
Absolutely, it's a great question. So again, sort of in a similar way to the long lever bridge that we just worked on, the single leg RDL is a nice way to kind of bias the hamstring. As you slowly lower down, your hamstring is having to control that movement. When you quickly come up in a single leg stance, it's having to produce force quickly or shorten at that point. So that lengthening and then shortening is the same exact pattern that will, occur in something like a jump or in the running motion as well. So when you think about this cyclic sort of running pattern, your hamstring is being lengthened at the hip once your hip is flexed, and it's having to shorten to produce force to bring your leg, your foot down towards the floor, back and around, like so. So the single leg RDL actually kind of mimics that same action that occurs when you're running in that repetitive kind of manner.
Cool.
All right. That was a great question. Great question. Now we'll get into some of the more specific plyos here. So we're going to start with a very basic jump progression. So we'll go through some of the initiation types here, right? So we'll start with what's called a non-counter movement jump. Basically what that's going to look like is starting in the triple extension position, snapping down into the base. There's a deliberate pause in the base position, and that's what makes it a non-counter movement variation. And then you're jumping up, driving towards the ceiling, and landing with a very deliberate pause. All right? So I want you to do 5 repetitions and make sure you reset in between each rep. So come back up into standing, triple extension, base, pause, jump, and land, and then reset. Good. Make sure you get that deliberate pause before you jump. That's what makes it the non-counter movement variation. I apologize if you can hear my dog barking right now.
Sounds like a big dog.
Yeah, she's like probably around 60 pounds.
Oh, wow. What kind of dog is it?
She's a mutt. She's a rescue. Yeah, I always forget what she is exactly, but she is a big time mutt. Yeah, let Becky finish up here, and then we'll. Good landing. Nice. Okay, so again, non-counter movement. That's the first type in the continuum. We're going to take that same jump and progress to a counter movement now. So a counter movement uses the stretch shortening cycle of the muscles and of the tendons of those muscles to produce more force that you then have to absorb on the landing, okay? So counter movement, we're getting rid of that deliberate pause at the bottom. So here, you're dropping down into the base position, driving immediately back up towards the ceiling, right? Base and up, land, okay? Can everyone see the difference between non-counter movement and counter movement? Okay, good. So 5 counter movement jumps now. Nice. So Mark, you still want to reset in between jumps. That's sort of the next progression in the continuum would be that continuous sort of jumping that you're doing. So you're getting the drive down, jump, land. On the land, you can pause and reset, okay? So we have non-counter movement, counter movement. The next progression in that continuum is going to be double contact. Double contact gets a little funny. There's a little coordination piece to it, okay? Basically, you're making contact with the floor twice before the jump actually happens. So it's triple extension, contact with the floor, and then you're down into the jump. It looks a little funny when it's slowed down, but it looks like so when you speed it up. That makes sense? Sort of? Okay, so the first contact is a little bit of like a hop into the floor, and then you're immediately down into that jump position, driving up towards the ceiling. This one is tough. We might have lost Tina here too, I'm not sure. There you go, Becky, nice. Looks good, Mark. I'm having a little trouble seeing your feet, so I can't totally tell if you're getting that first contact, but it looks pretty good. All right. So double contact we'll have to keep working on. That's something that'll come back around. I'll have to figure out a little better way to show you guys that virtually, especially. From there, the next progression in the continuum is going to be that continuous sort of jump squat that you're probably used to doing, that you were kind of doing earlier, Mark. So that looks similar at the start. You're in triple extension, dropping down into the squat, and you're immediately into the next squat jump. Okay, so let's see 5 of them in a row. So that I just wanted to really illustrate in a pretty clear way the progression through the continuum of initiation types there. those initiation types, again, can be applied to all different types of movements here. So we'll kind of illustrate a few of those here. The first is a very clear progression. We're going to go non-counter movement jump into a single leg land. So you're down into that base position, pausing, deliberate pause to make it non-counter movement, jumping and landing on a single leg. Try to stick the landing a little better than I did there. So triple extension, down, pause, jump, and land on one leg. Let's try 3 reps on each side. Good, Mark. Becky, you're looking like me. I think we lost you for a second there, Tina, huh?
Yes, my internet had decided to drop, but luckily I have a hotspot on our phone.
Oh, nice.
I was worried that the meeting stopped for you guys, so I'm happy to see.
No, it kept going. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Good.
Yeah, it worked out fine.
Good. If you guys heard me say a couple cusses, I'm sorry.
We've all been there. Good work. All right. So from there, you see how we can incorporate non-counter movements, make them more challenging with a single leg landing. We'll ramp it up pretty quickly here because I want to show you how you can really get creative with some of these. We're going to go with a counter movement split squat. So it's not the most creative thing in the world, but again, it's a nice progression. So you're going to get into the split squat stance, right? And again, this is going to be a counter movement. So we're dropping down into the base and then immediately into a split squat jump and landing. So we'll start in triple extension, down, up into the split squat jump, and you're landing back in that split squat position, and then you can reset, all right? So try 5 on each side, down, up towards the ceiling, land in the split squat. Good, Mark. Good. Nice. And again, this could follow that same progression as with the more traditional jump. You could move up on the continuum and turn this into a double contact movement or a continuous split squat jump, or you could kind of regress things and really focus on the foundational pattern, non-counter movement, stick the landing, and then, move on once you feel that you've become more competent with the split squat specifically. I know we're right at 12:30 here, and I want to leave some time for questions. So if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to throw them my way now. Can be anything. Can be plyometric related, PT related, running related. I'll do the best that I can to answer. That's supposed to be triple extension. Oh, skip triple extension. I don't know if I totally understand your question.
Maybe I just asked a question. So is that supposed to be, can you hear me? My volume.
Yeah. No, now I can't.
Oh, how about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so is it triple extension to the little hoppity up, or is it just down and then up?
Just down and then up. If you were making it that double contact movement, it would be the first variation that you just showed there. So double contact for the split squat would look something like this, where you're kind of hopping into the position and then jumping up. For the counter movement squat, split squat, you just want to come down towards the floor and then drive the floor away into the jump. All right. So double contact has that little hop. Counter movement is just down towards the floor and then drive it away.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? No, Mark's good. Nice. You look good today, Mark.
We're planning, Zach, every other week now. Yeah.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
Thursday
Yeah.
at
Every other
noon?
week we're gonna do this.
Cool.
Thursdays at noon. And I'll continue to incorporate some of these initiation type progressions. We'll change things up a little bit. It won't be linear vertical next time. Maybe we'll focus on linear horizontal movements or lateral, vertical movements. We can get, creative. So it'll be a slight change each time.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Right.
That was
You're
great.
welcome. Thank you for having me again. This is awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for coming. We look forward
thank you
to
everybody
next
for
time.
coming.
Yeah. Have a great day. And you didn't get stormed on, Becky. Woohoo.
Yeah.
It's definitely gonna rain.
You survived.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. Enjoy your day. Thank you.
Have a good one, everybody.